So, first of all, thank you very much for doing this interview. Could we please start with you giving us your names?
Ladies first.
My name is Kimberly Mislevy Fernandez.
And I am Gustavo Fernandez.
Okay, thank you very much. Could you also tell us how old you are?
No.
I am 55.
And I am 59.
Okay. And can you also tell us where you're from?
I am from Lake Winola, Pennsylvania.
And I was born and raised in Asunción, Paraguay, in South America.
Okay. Can you tell us what it was like growing up in these areas?
Well, I grew up on a dairy farm. So I was very much secluded, I guess you could say, from, like for us it was go to school, come home, do your chores. Actually, do your chores as soon as you woke up, go to school, do more chores. Fit in your homework where you can. We did a lot of homework on the bus, studied on the school bus. Wasn't allowed to join any sports or band, only things that happened during the school day. So it was clubs that I was able to join. Graduated from high school locally.
Yeah. Is there a specific reason why you were not allowed these things?
Because we had chores.
I see. So you had to help a lot on the farm.
Farm, yes. We all were involved in the farm. You never saw kids more happier for school to start in the fall than us.
Listen up, yeah.
We were like in line waiting for the bus that first day because it meant we got a break. And we're at the farm all summer, waking up at 6 a.m. every day. We didn't get those lazy days that kids typically got that didn't grow up on a farm.
Yeah.
So it was different.
Okay.
I did not grow up around here. I was born and raised in Paraguay. I came to the U.S. when I was 20 years old.
Mm-hmm. And what was growing up in Paraguay like?
Well, I grew up in a city, so it was typical city stuff. You go to school. The school system is a bit different in Paraguay than it is in most places. You go to school either in the morning or in the afternoon, but not throughout most of the day. So my school day was either 7 a.m. to noon or 1 p.m. to 6, depending on the grade that you were in and or the school you went to. So it was just that, mostly school, get together with friends on the weekends. My parents were fairly athletic. We'd go sailing and things like that.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you give us 3 interesting pieces of information about your homes? It can be your hometown, can also be the state, the country. You choose.
3 interesting. Well, Lake Winola is very much a place where people come and stay for the summer. There's a lot of cottages around the lake. The farm, of course, is not on the lake. It's on a dirt road away from the lake, but we do have a hill where you can see, so you could see the lake and you could see boaters out there and stuff like that. So our town does change in population from summer to, fall and winter. It drops down, and just people who live there year round. What else? Well, this area is called Endless Mountains because we have tons of mountains in the area, and we are surrounded by mountains. Just living here, we have a mountain on each side of us. We kind of live in the valley, so that's kind of unique to this area. Pennsylvania is known for a lot of firsts in the country, so that makes it very unique. I'm talking as a state. Benjamin Franklin was here, and it was at one point the capital of the US for a very short time. And what's nice about Pennsylvania is we are close to a lot of areas within, say, 8 hours. Within 8 hours, you can go to Maine, you can go to Virginia Beach. DC is about 5 hours. You can go to beaches in New Jersey or Delaware in about 4 hours. New York City, 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on traffic. Pittsburgh, which is on the other side of Pennsylvania, about 5.5 to 6 hours. So we are nicely located. There's a lot of interesting places to go.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Now, do you want me to speak about Pennsylvania or Asunción?
You choose.
Well, actually, this has been my home longer than Asuncion was because I was there until I was 20 and I've been here the rest of my adult life. So this is my home. Pennsylvania is quite different than a lot of people would think when they think about the United States. People have this idea that the U.S. is all big cities, and that is completely false when it comes to Pennsylvania. We do have some large cities, but most of Pennsylvania is fairly rural. It's greenery. As you look around and you look at the mountains around us, there's a lot of trees, there's a lot of green, there's a lot of wildlife. I love the fact that we have small towns everywhere. People are very welcoming. It's just a really nice place to live.
Thank you so much. And now we already talked about your childhood. Can you tell us also kind of what happened to you after school and what your current jobs are like? Maybe about your life together also.
Sure. Well, we met at college at Bloomsburg University, and we were married young. I was 21, and you were just
turned 20, just about to turn 25.
Yeah. So we started out young. We lived in Hazleton first, and then we moved to Wilkes-Barre and lived there for, we lived in each of those places about 2.5 years before we moved here. It took us about 5 years. We saved money, paid off all our student loans and everything else. We bought this house, renovated this house a lot. And then, when we were married about 8.5 years, we had our daughter. And when we were married just a little over 11 years, we had our son. And they're now adults. And I've worked at Keystone College it'll be 29 years in November, which is only 10 minutes from here. And that's just, it worked out well. And where I work is 10 minutes from my house. It was 10 minutes to my family farm. From our house, it was 10 minutes to my kids' school. So, we're very well located. And for my job, it was nice with being able, if my kids needed anything. We were very involved with the kids when they were in, from elementary on to high school.
Thank you.
Now, I work at the University of Scranton. I also work in information technology. That was my major in college when I came, where we met, IT. It's I've been there for 28 years. It's I would say no different than almost anybody else's story. We both graduated college, got our first job. My first job was actually at a factory putting electrical fittings together, for lights and things like that. And then we moved to Hazleton, where Kim got a better job and she was making all the money. And at that point, I worked another factory job putting, cardboard boxes together and industrial filters before I first got my first job in the computer industry and so on and so forth. So it's just basically been a natural progression of how your job basically evolves. That's what we do right now. We're in IT, and it's working well for us at times.
Like life goes. Okay. So let me see. Can you tell us what living is like in the United States?
I'm gonna take this one.
Yeah, go for it. Mm-hmm.
I love the U.S. To me, it is the greatest country in the world. I came from Paraguay, where it's a small country by a lot of standards, not by others. It is a third world country. I love Paraguay, don't get me wrong. I think it's a great country. There's a lot of very different things that I prefer from Paraguay than in here. But the U.S. is, it's a pretty straightforward country. What you say is what you do is what you say. There's no false politeness. There's no. Some people can think that maybe that's rude, but no, it's just there. This is what you deal with. This is why I prefer when something is
Direct.
forward, direct. Exactly. That's also one of the reasons why I like English much more than I like my native Spanish, because in Spanish there's a lot of words. In English, this is how you say things, and boom. But in general, people are as direct as they are and as forward as they are. Know that they are very friendly. They are extremely helpful. They are super welcoming. It's just, it really is an amazing country. It really is.
And there's a lot to do.
And there's lots of, it's a big
And the variety of
very big country.
You know, you can be in Alaska and freezing, or you could be down in Key West where it's sunny and hot at the beach. You know what I mean? You could be in California
So
and go
much.
surfing. You can be, you know what I mean? We're so diverse. There's so much. And even he's been to more states than I have. Go figure. But I still have my bucket list and places we're going to hit. Even in the States, I figure, you know, we'll try going out into the world more as we're still not too old. And then as we get older, we'll then hit the states that we haven't been able to see or maybe want to revisit.
Which place is on top of your bucket list at the moment within the US?
In the US. I would like to go like to Washington or Oregon and go down like, is it US 1?
US 1.
Like right along the coast into California, but I don't want to go like to LA.
It follows the coastline, and it really is when the coast goes in 10 feet, the road goes in 10 feet, and it comes out 10 feet.
I would like to do that in a convertible
It's amazing.
in the summer.
I don't mean to make your video longer, but people in other parts of the world really have a hard time understanding how big this country is. Sort of, other than people maybe in Australia or you know, China or Russia and stuff like that, but it really is very vast. I like to remember a story where there was a guy that was talking about England not really knowing distances. He's never been there and stuff like that. So he was talking to a girl, and he made a comment about the location of the other city, and he said, "Oh, is that close?" And she said, "No, that's like 2 hours. We go out to ice cream 2 hours away just because we feel like driving.
Well,
2 hours is nothing."
We'll go to the Finger Lakes,
So, yeah.
which is awesome in New York to
3
go
hours
for
away
wines
to get some wine
and stuff.
You
You know,
know,
like you'll
it's-
do that, and you'll stay overnight maybe because you want to hit all the wineries, so you're not going to be driving back.
Right.
But yeah,
So when you're talking about driving to,
well, your brother
the
yells at
States.
you
oh yeah,
because he'll be like, "Well, how far is it?" And Gus will be like, 20 minutes. He goes, "That tells me nothing." He goes, "I could sit in traffic for 20 minutes and go a mile." Yeah, but we're here, you say 20 minutes, and it's, you know, it's so many miles. But,
typically around 15 miles or
Yeah.
something like that.
so it's
But
just
yeah,
a different...
It's a different way of thinking. It's
Right.
a way of,
Now, I
different way of
imagine
doing
if you're
things.
living in New York City or in very populous areas, it might be just like what, you know, his brother has to deal with, but we don't have to deal with that here.
And to kind of get a full picture, now you talked about the good sides of the US. Are there some sides which are more disadvantages compared to what you know about Paraguay or any countries you know?
Well, it depends on really what you mean by that. The one thing that the U.S. is heavily criticized about is that people don't care about other places in the world. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I don't necessarily agree with it for the same reason. A lot of people in the U.S. don't necessarily not care about other places in the world because this country is so big that they see little opportunity for them to leave it or to go elsewhere. So what they know is within 5 hours of there. And in 5 hours, I have not left Pennsylvania if I go west. So it really depends on the situation. So they have a hard time thinking about the rest of the world because this is the reality. So it's harder to think about that in places. There are states in the United States that are bigger than countries in Europe. So it's...
Or even in South America,
Oh,
like Paraguay.
but not too many now. No, because California is one of the bigger states, and
Right.
Paraguay is the size of California.
Right.
So, yes, Texas is much bigger. Alaska is way bigger. So, yes.
Right.
So that's one of the things that, the Americans don't necessarily care about other places, but it's not because they don't care. It's because of their circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I would say healthcare. But we were in Spain in March, and Gus's best friend and her husband are from Paraguay, but they now live in Spain, and they're radiologists. So they're part of that healthcare system. But so we had a conversation about it, and they're like, well, it's not actually as great as you think it is, because here healthcare is very expensive, and there are people that don't have good healthcare, and or good doctors. In this area, if something major was to happen, I'm not staying here. I'm going to travel to Philly. I'll travel to New York City. You want to go where the best doctors are, because I've seen some of my friends who had cancer that didn't make it because they stayed in this area. And the doctors here may not have the latest and greatest, but if you go to the big cities or the universities that have the research, you have a better chance. So I think people think, and another thing is, it seems like, now maybe it's not the rest of the world, but I know in Paraguay, I think the US is wealthy. They think everybody is wealthy. We're like, we're not wealthy. We work really hard. I mean, we both have 2 jobs, and that's, you have to work. And you could put in a lot of hours and not make much money here.
Can you tell us about your jobs, the second ones?
Well, I do downloads for a medical billing company. So I go in like 6 days a week, and I check different websites and do their downloads and download them to their computer from mine. I do a remote. Mm-hmm. So it's not a lot of hours, but it's 6 days a week I'm working for them, and 5 days a week I'm working generally for my other job. So basically I have 1 day off that I'm not working, but then I'm home working. So that's another thing. Like some countries, you'll have housekeepers and gardeners and stuff. Well, I do all the housework. I do the garden and the landscaping. You do all that. You do the groceries, you do the laundry. So you're a full plate.
Yeah. And how many hours all in all do you work each week? Do you have a rough estimate?
For my first job, it depends. It could be 37 to 40 some. It depends on the week and right now with the circumstances, what happens. My other job isn't too bad. So I can generally work in a month about 15 to 17 hours, maybe some less, some more. It all depends on her area that she does medical billing is mental health. So it depends on how many patients, I guess, her clients have.
Okay.
For me is, the university is officially 35 hours a week, but it's never less than 40. And depending on the time of the year, it could be considerably more, because we're getting ready for the students to come in and so on and so forth. My second job is really not much of a job. I teach motorcycle safety, and I do it mostly because I enjoy it. It doesn't pay a whole lot, but it is, I would be standing in the sun, watching people ride motorcycles, giving them instructions, teaching them how to do this, teaching them how to do that for 8 hours and, a day on a Saturday and Sunday. And it really depends on the month as to when I do it. So motorcycling is very seasonal. So teaching motorcycle safety is also very seasonal. It starts in March. Depending on how many instructors we have who want to teach in that particular year and that particular range, is how many hours I can put in. So my second job varies a lot. I say job in quotes like that because, again, I don't really consider it a job. It's a hobby that pays me a little bit of money.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. What is your favorite place in the United States? Returning to the positive.
I like Maine.
Maine, yeah?
I really do like Maine. We were up there. The year I turned 50, that's where I wanted to go. It's just, we didn't get to explore all of it because it's a pretty large state, but the parts we saw I thought were really pretty. We got to do a whale watching cruise that, and actually see whales, so that was cool. Plus we were in like this really cute town. The harbor was right there. You could walk, so the kids could walk down and get ice cream. You didn't have to worry about it. It was very calm. It wasn't a lot of tourists. Like Bar Harbor is a very touristy place, and we went there for an overnight just to check it out. But I'd have to say Maine.
Mm-hmm. I don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. I mean, there are so many places that I visit, and I've loved most of them. I loved upstate New York, where she was talking about we go wine tasting. I love Key West when we go down to Florida. It's almost like every place I go to, I just really love it.
Yeah.
I love Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely one of my favorite states in the U.S. and I've visited a number of them. Love Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we like Gettysburg. I mean, that's a very historical town, and we've been there twice with the kids. We tried when the kids were growing up to take them somewhere that was fun, but also educational, so they got to see a lot of different areas. And they were quite surprised when they were in high school. They were both in band since 5th grade right through 12th. In high school, you get to go to Walt Disney World one time in high school. So it just happened to be the year my son was a freshman and my daughter was a junior, so they were both going at the same time. And they were so surprised there were kids in their class that were going on this trip that had never been on a plane. Our kids had been our daughter was on a plane at 16 months, our son 9 months. So, they were just surprised by that, because we have taken them places and shown them as much as we could.
We tried to do things with them.
We tried. Unfortunately, the pandemic kind of cut that short because we wanted to go more places with them before they were out in the workforce. But
okay, thank you. Do you have a tip for somebody's first stay in the United States?
I would say, forget everything you think you know about the U.S. Come in with an open mind. It's not what you think it is. People are friendly, people are welcoming, but depending on where you go. I mean, if you go to a big city, you might find rude people.
Yeah.
They exist everywhere.
And you have to watch pickpockets, but the same would be in Spain. We were told about pickpockets.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You have to watch.
There are those everywhere, but in general, just come in with an open mind, and you will be pleasantly surprised.
And do your research, because, you wouldn't want to necessarily go to Maine in the winter if you don't like to be cold. Or Boston. We hear Boston can be frigid in the winter because it's close to the water.
Thank you. And last but not least, do you have a tip in general for young people? Any kind of tip?
Listen to your elders.
No, travel. If you can, travel.
Yes.
See the world. You never know what you're going to find.
Okay.
But again, keep an open mind.
Yes.
Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you.